Hello and welcome back to the Shed Geek podcast. Here's a message from our 2025 studio sponsor. Let's be real. Running a shed business today isn't just about building great sheds. The industry is changing fast. We're all feeling the squeeze, competing for fewer buyers while expectations keep climbing. And yet, I hear from many of you that you are still juggling spreadsheets, clunky software, or disconnected systems. You're spending more time managing chaos than actually growing your business. That's why I want to talk to you about our studio sponsor, ShedPro. If you're not already using them, I really think you should check them out. ShedPro combines your 3D configurator, point of sale, RTO contracts, inventory, deliveries, and dealer tools all in one platform. They even integrate cleanly into our Shed Geek marketing solutions. From website lead to final delivery, you can quote, contract, collect payment, and schedule delivery in one clean workflow. No more double entries, no more back and forth chaos. Quoting is faster, orders are cleaner. And instead of chasing down paperwork, you're actually running your business. And if you mention Shed Geek, you'll get 25% off all setup fees. Check it out at shedpro.co/ShedGeek. Thank you, ShedPro, for being our studio sponsor, and honestly, for building something that helps the industry. Welcome back to part 2 of a 3-part series involving all my good friends over at Shed Geek Marketing. Hope you enjoyed last week's episode. This is part 2, and be sure to stick around for part 3. Like, that's the one thing that you can get so uber conservative that it's like, and make sure you don't laugh either. Don't have any fun. Don't have any personality. Don't have any life. And after a while, you're like, oh my God, this drives me crazy.
Which tends to have the exact opposite effect of what is like wanted, right? I mean, as far as like how to actually, whatever it is, conduct business or raise up kids or whatever.
You get so liberal
that you're
not grounded. Yeah. And it's like, I've used the phrase, I didn't create it, I've heard it. I think I've told you, if you're not liberal till you're 30, you don't have a heart. And if you're not conservative after 30, you don't have a brain.
Yeah.
Because like when you're young, you're like wild and free and, you want to live and do so many things. As you start to get older, you start to slow down a little. It's just like, don't stop though. Slow down. Don't stop. Don't get to the point where you're like, I'm so conservative. Well, I can't laugh. I can't have fun. I can't do anything,
It's, some of the oldest writing in human history, the first Sumerian tablets, right? That are just basically like grocery lists, accounting, like keeping up with wheat and stuff like that, kind of keeping track of your things. And then, basically complaining that the kids these days are not like they used to be. That is a 4,000-year-old, right? And like there's some, like as you get older, you're going to think that way, right? You're going to be like, I tell you that way
already. My former pastor said there was a time where the church rejected the song Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace, I don't know if you guys know, it was written, I used to know who it was written by, but it was written on a ship.
Yeah.
When did the same guy that wrote the national anthem?
No, that was Francis Scott Key.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
I just remember Eli Whitney created the cotton gin. I don't know where that came from, but it's,
wherever that fits into the story.
George Washington Carver.
George Washington. Yeah.
Peanut butter.
Yeah. I'm a historian. Yeah, that's today's media, isn't it? It's like, that guy knows his history. It's like, all you got to do is throw the old cotton gin out there every now and people are like, wow, he's smarter than I thought.
What was the problem with Amazing Grace? That it was talking about living a life?
For whatever reason.
Wretchedness.
It was new, so it's resisted. Yeah. And I think we could talk about that. I think we could segue that into, matter of fact, maybe the podcast has already started. And welcome back to the Shed Geek podcast. We're already rolling here, but I made the comment the other day. I said in the shed industry, and it's probably all industries, but I know we do have a extremely conservative nature to our industry. Like, I do think that is a bit unique, and you have to point that out. But I made the comment the other day. I said, you can have a new idea in the shed industry, and the first words out of someone's mouth will be, it'll never work. Second words out of their mouth will be like, go ahead and tell me what your idea is.
Right.
Right. That's unfortunate. You know what I mean? Like, watching some of the like, if I were to just call things out, right, I'll start alienating my crowd or get hate mail or get people to quit listening. I'm not sure. You know, like, love the mule. Mule's done amazing. I mean, who can't appreciate the mule? I mean, have you seen that diesel mule that they came out? It's been to both facilities, at least the two that I know of, and up here in Carrier Mills and out in Grayson, Kentucky. Phenomenal what they're doing. Amazing. But people just complain about, like, it's a monopoly, which it's not. I don't believe that's, you know, these guys got in and they created or meant to create. They did good service and they put a good product out, so it dominated the market. But Challenger came out, you know, and we've done their website, right? Challenger came out and it's an awesome tool. Looks neat. Got so much resistance. Because, you know, but I could sit here and name a lot of other things. Technology specifically that have faced so much resistance. And I'll go back to, I'm going to pick on my in-laws because I can. I'll go back to my in-laws, and I just remember them being like, when we got a computer, me and Deanna. Now, to be clear, I didn't own a computer till I was in my 30s. So for all the people who think I'm just so super techie, sorry to let you down. I've been blue collaring it my whole life.
I just have bad eyes.
It helps the logo and the image, but the reality is I'm not smart. I just maybe look it because the glasses, right? I love that. We got a computer. My wife was the smart one. She used it to do everything we needed to get done. And the reality is, I remember my in-laws were like, computer? Why on earth would I get that? Why would I need that? I'll never use that. Then it was the internet, right? And the next thing you know, they had the computer and they use it all the time. And then the internet comes like, why on earth would we need that? We don't, you know, like, she uses it all. We go over and she's teaching me things about speed and download. And she's talking like in a different language. And I'm like, gosh, she knows more about it than I do on this stuff.
It's such a useful tool for efficiency. My grandmother's 92 and she has scanned in every photo, every document, the sale of a cow in 1946 that was a purebred named Bessie or whatever, right? Like, our family history, and every Christmas, she hands us, like, all the cousins, all of the, you know, my mom's generation, and then all the cousins' generation, we all get a thumb drive, right, that has an updated, complete family history with photos and all this stuff, right? It's such a good tool that, like, you wind up embracing it eventually, right? But to your point, you know, it is who embraces it first. Who embraces it when it's marginal, right? Because, we kind of touched on this a little. I think we're maybe going to do this as a series or whatever. But when you embrace that newness whenever it's marginal, if we here at Shed Geek, right, said that every employee needs to have the same value as Dylan, right, who is the main primary value driver of this company, right? If we said, well, everybody who comes on has to match his what he brings into the company, right? Like dollar for dollar or whatever else, right? What you're going to do is you're just going to have a very high bar that keeps you from marginally 10, 15, 20%, 25%, 30% at a time continuing to grab up that market share, right? And the people who move to it when it is still marginal, right? When sheds are still, you know, mostly just by pure percentage, right? Maybe it's, we hear now a lot, maybe it's 50-50 already, right? Maybe it is. Maybe it's still 60-40 in some areas and 50-50 in others, referring to the number of online leads
versus inventory,
versus, you know, like how that balance is working, or some of that's probably how we're attributing it, because if we're not tracking, if we don't have the scaffolding up, and you don't realize that somebody went to your Facebook page.
There's multi-million-dollar companies out here who, you know, talk about ROI. who have the missing components from the digital tracking analytics to be able to effectively measure that ROI.
Running a business can feel like trying to balance a dozen plates, except none of them are actually plates, and one of them's on fire. Enter Newfound Solutions. Think of us like your business BFF, always ready to lend a hand with whatever you need. Have you always wanted to start your own rent-to-own company but don't quite know where to start? RTO Partners is here to help. Overwhelmed by all the moving pieces in running your own rent-to-own program? RTO Smart is a software that encompasses everything you need on one platform. Or leave the rent-to-own up to us and focus on what's more important to you. Newfound Rentals has you covered with traditional rent-to-own options for your customers. Shed Connect understands the complexity of the digital marketplace. We take the hassle out of online sales and unlock the full potential of your brand with co-creative. We'll make your brand look so good, your audience won't be able to look away. Newfound Solutions, 5 powerful sub-brands helping you succeed across every aspect of your business. Visit newfoundsolutions.com today and let us do the balancing so you don't have to.
We've really tried to move people to a ROAS, ROAS, return on ad spend mentality.
Yeah.
Because the truth is just like you need your mule or your Challenger, right? Just like you need your tools, your scaffolding, your trucks, just like you need the physical assets that allow you to do work. That is what the number one, most people either need a website or need it revamped, because now if that website is not a pure conversion machine, if it's not trying to drive you to a phone number, drive you to an address, drive you to a 3D builder, drive you to a contact form, right? If it is not actively trying to move you into a funnel, then it's not doing its job.
My watershed moment was the client who asked us to quote out a website. Wanted to quote a website. We want to do those things, but they wanted something very simplistic. So you want to hear what the customer wants. And there's also the concern of a very simplistic website as a measure of our work in some people's eyes. So they'll see it and they go, oh, that's the level of quality they produce. I don't really want to work with them. So we almost had to make the decision, do we want to do such a simplistic website because it doesn't showcase our talent and the ability of what we know is more helpful. So we've had to consult them into, you need certain amounts of functionality and things that make your website valuable, and not just think with your pocketbook here, not trying to oversell you something, just don't want to, and at the end of it, this customer says, oh, before we go, for that price, I know that it's really important to have that show up on the first page of Google. People have told me that. So for that same price, I want you to make that happen too.
Right.
And it was my watershed moment that I was like, oh, I don't know a whole lot. I'm learning so much even from you guys still to this day. But I know so much more than they know in this moment of this, that when people say, I want a website, the way I've explained it to people is okay, so let's get you the best functioning website out there. Let's make it, what does a good website look like to you or whatever? It's and you go through all this stuff and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so this is the best one ever. Now let's go put it, and I try to always equate it to sheds because there's a metaphor there that's understood, right?
Always, right, yeah.
Parables with Jesus, sheds with us.
Yeah, right.
And so I would say, so you built this really nice, beautiful lot. You got 140 buildings on your lot, some of the most pristine buildings I've ever seen, perfect, beautiful asphalt, paved, well landscaped, well manicured. You can pull up to the front and it sits in the middle of a cornfield in Nebraska where no one can see it for 100 miles. Yep. So you got a cool website, but it doesn't mean anything without traffic leading you there.
Yep.
SEO.
Yep.
Right? And then so they're, okay, I get that. I understand that.
And this is I don't want to call it a battle and be overly dramatic, but this is conversations that we have all the time with potential customers, especially. a lot of times at the dealer level, right? Because, frankly, some of the very large companies in the industry are not providing these sort of digital tools for their dealers for them to be able to compete with people down the road who may be their same size, but just have a little more knowledge. And so, we want to meet people where they are, right? We want to meet them where they are. We want to be very conscious of what their budget is and how we can plan, but on some level, just like there is a minimum qualification for what kind of truck can pull that trailer, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to get 3 sheds on a trailer, you need a gooseneck. So you better not buy a Chevy 1500 off the lot with a hitch pull, with a hitch on it, right? Like there's a certain minimum.
Tandem, I think, is what you're going for. Maybe, is that right?
Yeah. You tandem axle. Yeah, you need yes, right. I mean, all this depends on weight.
These shed haulers that are listening are going to grill.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah. You need a dually. You need a dually truck, tandem axle trailer, right? The whole. I don't even claim to know the manufacturers, right? But the point is you need the equipment that can do the job.
Yeah.
And so while we certainly want to.
Here you go, sir. Hot chai tea latte at your request from Piper's delivered.
Thanks, Gal. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Is there anything else? Any way I can serve you?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well.
People only saw us like regularly. Sorry.
No, absolutely. You got to get your tea in the morning. I'm probably.
Where's my bagel?
Right. Yeah. But anyway, it is just a sort of, it's not. Sometimes I feel like whether you can frame it however you want, being too honest is how we like to think about it because we feel like we're honest people. It may be perceived sometimes as pushy, but there's just a certain minimum level of equipment that you need, right? And that starts with a website. What is your data collection engine, right? What is able to scoop up not just IP data and device data, but what's able to scoop up conversion data, right? We don't just want to know that they hit your page, and some marketing companies don't even dig this deep, right? But we want to know what you do once you're on the page, because that then affects how we retarget or how we create lookalike audiences. And I know I'm now just starting to
I'm here for it all.
Dig
bro.
deeper in, and I'm not meaning to have a full-on discovery call, on your podcast here.
But you have to set. I think what you're saying is you have to set the expectation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you have to. And here's, I think it's a good watershed moment for us in this company because, like we were going to talk about it in the first podcast, but we didn't get to it, so maybe we'll bring it back up and run this as a series. But we lost a client.
Yeah.
We lost a client. And that shook us. It was like, whoa, because we had to dissect the whole nature of like where we failed.
Yeah.
What happened, where we take accountability, all of that. And I think there's a mixture. I think there's a mixture of what the expectations are for us, communication, all of these things, but then also what the expectation is for the client.
Yeah.
And the amount of understanding that the client has in terms of like, and if you're not careful, you will, this is why I say it's a watershed moment for us, because we've done kitchen sinks. For those of you who've had discovery calls with us, you know what that is. Like we can show you how you could keep spending money endlessly in marketing.
Yeah.
It never has to stop.
There's always a marginal dollar.
Yes.
Right? There's always a marginal dollar.
Yes.
Now, is the very far reaches, right? Like you're saying, right? We're not just talking about the initial setup and the tools you have to have, right? Now we're talking about, do you want the King Ranch or
That's exactly right.
Do you want that extra marginal piece?
If we were selling you a car, we're going to take you out to the lot. We're going to show you the F-150 and the basic package, and And here you go. So we can do this. We can lead the horse to water. We can show you need a website. And then we can wait for you to be naturally curious, Wyatt, and be like, well, what good's this website if I don't have traffic on it? It's like, oh, well, we offer an SEO package. And then it's like, well, why didn't you tell me about that? Well, we didn't want to overwhelm you with that, right? Like, we didn't want to give you SEO and website prices because you weren't asking about SEO. You were asking about a website. Well, you should know to send me an SEO package. They're like, well, we just want to overstep our bounds. So next time we go to a client, we go, hey, here's a website and SEO package. And they're like, oh, hold on. Whoa, wait a minute. Do I need all this? I just need a website. Yeah. And you're just like, oh, well, I was just letting you know what's there. If you want your website to be seen, SEO would be a good way. Then the next thing you know, we have to go through all the things that we know. We have to go website. Well, before website, we'll go back to branding, brand guidelines, brand book. Yeah. Get into the website. Then all of a sudden we'll get into the setup, the GTMs, the GA4s, the metapixels. Next thing you know, they're like, well, what good is all this? And SEO. And they're like, well, all these leads are coming in. And you're like, well, you need a way to organize all these leads. And they're like, well, what's a good option? You're like, well, CRM. Why didn't you tell me about CRM? It's like, because then it turns into the kitchen sink. We can never stop. We can also start talking about video. We can start talking about all the deliverables to video. We can start talking about all the streaming, all the different places that it goes. Are you done yet? No, we're not. We can keep going to automation campaigns. We can turn into post-sale scripts. We can turn into email, long-form drip campaigns. But what we want to do is we want to make you money. Yeah. So before we get too caught up in all of the things that can be done, we're willing to do, we want to share this very simple message with you. It's an investment. The same way you buy a 2x4 and nail them together to make it a shed, to sell it for money, that's marketing. Yep. It's supposed to make you more money than it's costing you. And that's our job. Yeah. And if we don't do a good job, then we don't get to stick around.
Yeah, and the model that we have, that's especially true. And maybe Wyatt can speak to this because,
Hello, shed builders. I'd like to grab your attention for just a moment. As we look ahead to 2025, one thing is clear. Customers will have higher expectations than ever before. Shed consumers have an unprecedented access to information. To stay competitive, you need to create sheds that are not only high in quality, but also rich in innovation. You might recall my friend Dan Ream, one of my early podcast guests, who introduced Solar Blaster fans, specifically the Solar Roof Blaster. Dan has been busy handling orders, and he's eager to speak directly to shed builders about his groundbreaking products. What stands out to me about Dan's products, designed specifically for sheds, like the Solar Roof Blaster and the Solar Light Blaster, is how they enhance the shed owner's experience. With the focus on quality, it's time to start thinking about adding features and benefits for the end user. Here at Shed Geek, we wholeheartedly recommend Solar Blaster as the solution. My favorite thing about the entire line of products? The support you'll receive from Dan. Not only is he incredibly knowledgeable about these products, but he's also one of the most customer-focused individuals I know. He truly stands behind both his product and his service. We're searching for companies ready to elevate customer satisfaction to the next level. To learn more, just visit solarblasterfans.com and fill out some basic information for a callback, or connect directly at 480-747-7097. You can also check out the Shed Geek newsletter, where a click on the Solar Blaster ad will guide you to a form for more information and some cool videos showcasing the products. Let's power up innovation and elevate customer experiences together.
So, twofold. You started that with losing a client and really having to look at ourselves and dissect that and go back and say, we feel like we've done very good work and have optimized and all of this, but we've had to go back and say, well, we had to solve genuine problems. You have to find genuine problems and then solve genuine problems. And I think that this is something that Wyatt can speak to, especially because he is the one who is inside the CRM the most. But, we're utilizing our own CRM to go back and say, hey, this breakdown in communication at a project level right? You know, in our mind, we are taking that. I mean, we just ran through a bunch, and I don't want to dump on, you know, a kind of mind dump on people here, but like, you know, we take that website marketing setup, logo redesign, brand book, whatever that line of items is, right, that our customer wants, and we take it and we start shuffling it around to each of the teams, right? We, you know, as account managers, which Wyatt and I both are, Dylan is as well, you know, we're taking those things, we're handing them off to whichever team is specialized in that thing. We feel like we have these things at hand, you know, but, you know, frankly, as we kind of said on we were a bit of a victim of our own success, you know. We had some failures in communication as we kept scaling, right? And we needed a scalable solution for those things. And just as many of our customers, you know, 100% could use some of these same internal solutions. You know, we've gone to the CRM and molded it to solve real problems. Maybe if you want to, you know, not that you have to dig super deep, but I mean, just the possibilities of problem solving with the CRM.
Yeah, that is my favorite part of the CRM, but it's also what makes it the most challenging, right? Because there is, when you are creating an account within the CRM, it's essentially a blank slate. And so what I am doing as I am building that out is I am trying to communicate as much as possible to the people who are using it every day to find out what those pain points that we need to solve are. Because some people, I will bring up the fact that, you know, you can automate specific types of tasks, right? But then those people, rarely does a client have those tasks ready in their mind for what needs to be automated. You know, that's a process. They have to think it through. Well, what do I do every day? What are the things that I need to automate and to make better? So as we were building out our own internal CRM, you know, you and I have had plenty of discussions about the day-to-day process. What do we do? How do we make this more efficient? But like you said, how do we build that in a way that is scalable? So that way, 6 months to a year down the road, when hopefully we continue to grow, this does not become a conversation that ever has to be had again. Right. We're set up for that. So yeah, it's my favorite part of the CRM, but like I said, it's the most challenging, because if you don't have those thoughts ready and those pain points, it's very difficult to know what it is that needs to be created. Of course, everyone kind of gets this standard pipeline layout. Everybody who does a new inquiry follow-up automation sequence has a pretty similar setup, right? Each company is a little different in their messaging and what they want to say, and the amount of touch points and the frequency at which those hit. But they're completely different once you get past that point.
Yeah, right. You're saying they're bringing in leads. You know, we all know they're coming from 3D Builder, ads, whether it be Google ads or Facebook ads.
Website lead forms.
However those leads are coming in. And then that initial contact, what we think of as that initial contact workflow automation. But then, after that point, right, how are we genuinely solving something for them? And it really is. I mean, honestly, Shannon, you would be great at just like pulling these things out of people, because it's like you're saying, it's things that, unless you really sit down and you analyze how things went today or how things went this week and really think through processes, which, you know, especially on the sales side of stuff, a lot of salespeople are not wired that way. Now, that may be what makes them most efficient, but most salespeople are wired in a way that is very relational.
Yep.
They don't even realize what their process is, even if they have it, you know?
When you're a carpenter and you work on homes every day, build houses, do remodels, whatever it is that you do, what is the one thing that a lot of people say is lacking for a carpenter? You don't do your projects at home.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
If you're a mechanic, you know, if you're a mechanic, what happens?
It's the last
you
one.
fix everyone else's vehicles, and your vehicles are always in need of repair, because you know the things that need to be done, but you also have the talent to fix it when something goes wrong.
My dad passed I'm sorry, the carpenter thing. My dad passed away in 2015, and we had lived in our home since 1998. They were builders. They had a 20-year run where they built some of the nicest homes in Massac County, Illinois. They started subdivisions. They excavated ponds. Like they started whole things. Right, built houses, custom houses, spec houses, did the whole thing. We moved in 1998. When he passed away in 2015, he still had just a light bulb. Did not have the ceiling fan up in his own bedroom. Right, like the wire nuts were there and ready. You know what I mean? But he just had the socket, and just like he just got done painting the day that we moved in. And so
we have had to become the carpenters and the mechanics in our own company. We have had to make those things happen for ourselves that we're making happen for others, because you drop the ball on communication if you don't. And we're trying to explain to people how this will never happen to them while having to work on our own design on the inside of who we are. Like you're so busy spending time doing all these CRMs for everyone else, building out their funnels, doing all the stuff, and then we're over here killing ourselves going, oh man, an email got missed.
Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a client's account or on the phone with a salesperson just brainstorming, what can we do, what can we build, and then I come across something and I think to myself, oh, that'd be awesome if we had that. Yeah. And I'm the one, so but you're exactly right.
And why haven't we done this for ourselves?
Exactly.
When you sit in judgment of yourself almost, and you're just like, why haven't I done this?
Yeah.
Why haven't I done this for us?
And Dylan, I'm sure he would want to tell this in his own way, but I'll tell you what we have done is we've went and hired CRM specialists. Right, Wyatt now has a whole team around him, and we went and hired those people and said, you do not get to work on client stuff until the internal stuff is done.
Yeah.
Right, Wyatt continues to serve our customers like he always has, and he does a great job of it. Yeah. He continues to work on that, but what winds up happening is the carpenter has to hire a finish out guy, right?
Yeah.
Like the guy who built the house, framed the walls, can do everything.
Yeah.
Need somebody else to come and put that ceiling fan up.
Well,
and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Sales,
just do it.
It's relatable in this way. In sales, I think I told you yesterday, what happens whenever me and you and Wyatt are selling sheds, and I'm out selling you guys like $1 million to your $300,000. Management comes and says, Shannon, I need you to be a sales manager. But nowhere in there does it say I know how to manage people.
Yeah.
It means I know how to make sales. Yep. And guess what the temptation is whenever I become a sales manager? To keep selling, because it's what I'm good at. It's where I've made my money,
Which
and it's what I like to do.
And sometimes alienates your sales team.
Absolutely.
Right? My goodness, if the sales manager's scooping up all the best leads, which you never, maybe they're the best, or maybe he's really good at sales. Yeah. But either way, that's something that somebody else.
But you don't know that they're good with people, right? And that's why it's important to get people into their right place. Let them shine where they are, right? Like let them do and be good at what they're good at. Don't try to force them to be something else. I think is it the Einstein quote that if an elephant is trying to compare himself to the monkey who climbs the tree, he's always going to come up a failure. I mean, we could get into a standardized education conversation really quick, why I did terrible in school, but have done fairly good in business, right? Because it was like, well, that was my talent. It just wasn't able to be exposed, through the standardization of things. So if we're not careful, you can put people in a bubble, and I think companies do this all the time. Introducing ShedHub, your ultimate shed marketplace. Are you in the shed business and looking to connect with more buyers? Look no farther than ShedHub. ShedHub is a game-changing, two-sided marketplace that brings shed sellers and buyers together in one easy-to-use platform. Think of it as the Amazon of sheds. ShedHub isn't just any ordinary marketplace. It's a powerhouse that ranks on the first page of Google's search results in 91% of U.S. cities. With over 1.2 million impressions on our website last month alone, ShedHub is where you want to be to showcase your sheds to a wider audience. And here's the best part. For a limited time, you can join our exclusive Next 500 plan for just $39 per month. Simply head over to geek.shedhub.com to sign up and start attracting more shoppers to your shed listings. As the Shed Geek, I am here to endorse ShedHub and invite you to join me on this journey to boost your shed business. Whether you're struggling with website visibility or simply want more eyes on your product, ShedHub has got you covered. Don't miss out on this opportunity to supercharge your shed sales. Visit geek.shedhub.com today and make your mark in the shed industry with ShedHub. Technology. Let me not even say technology because it comes with such a caveat. The digital landscape exists whether you're in the shed industry or not. We do not get to select to be agnostic from the digital landscape if we're going to be in commerce. It exists. Customers have an expectation. Not everyone shops the way you shop. So whenever you start doing things, you got to get out of your head and the way that you do things. If I go here, if I go to a car lot, this happens. That's not what happens to everyone. That's your experience. And that's invaluable, and that's good data. You're part of the sum, though.
Right.
So like you have to get into these in-depth conversations of like, what is the experience of the customer? And right now we're in this terribly unfortunate time where you have to spend all of this time building up this nice, beautiful brick and mortar location. But you cannot ignore the digital landscape. And I would make the argument that going all in and none on the other is maybe not the best practice.
Right.
Unfortunately, you're going to have to perfect both right now and maybe long term. And the people who are doing the digital side, we talked about a company earlier, $10 million a year in sales, no website, no digital landscape. Really hard to scale, guys.
Yeah.
Really hard to scale. It's just going to be difficult. I'm not going to go on record to say impossible.
You're not going to get the marginal dollars that your competition gets.
That's the thing. Who's going to take market share?
That's the
Cord. My question is, who's going to take market share from you that you don't even know is being taken? It's why you see such wide ranges on Shed Sales Professionals' Facebook page. Who's seeing down year? My year stinks. It's terrible. The next guy's
I'm
like,
having the best year ever.
I'm having the best year I've ever had.
Yeah.
He's taking your customers.
Well, and at some point, and in this industry, it's not that far down the road. Like we try and get your scaffolding set up, right? Get that initial digital presence, get that kind of data gathering, retargeting machine going, right? And then what happens is you wind up competing on cost per, right? You wind up competing on cost per click, cost per conversion, cost per sale, right? But then you're just making decisions. If you're talking about competition, right? Every single dollar is not going to have the same return. This initial, the dollars that get spent right
even
after
demographic, we could get into a million,
right. But the dollars that you spend right after you have built out this digital framework are the biggest marginal dollars that you can spend, right? All of a sudden, your company has 5 more ways of bringing customers in the door, right? So it's this huge return. But the ultimate thing is, where are the marginal dollars going to go, right? So, we'll switch industries to one of our clients that's non-shed industry, just as an example, right? We have a customer who is in plumbing, right? He's a Google guaranteed licensed plumber, right? Which allows you to run local service ads, LSAs, right? And so in his case, he has his weekly spend on local service ads set to $5,600. Now, Google can't even spend that amount of money in his service area, right? He basically spends $2,700 a month, right? But he said, set my weekly at $5,600. Why? Because we have optimized his digital scaffolding to the point that he knows that he is marginally taking leads away from his competition, right? So he's saying, give me the maximum spend because I have now scaled out this business into my local service area. So what's the next thought? His next thought is, well, I have to go get to Lexington. I have to go get to Louisville. I have to get to Bowling Green, right? Because I am now beating my competition in my local area, and he is obviously those marginal dollars at the end of that ad spend, the ones that are maybe not as good a quality of leads, and you may close them at a lower rate. But the point is, he is getting them. And so that's where all industry is going, but especially in the shed industry, if you're able to sit there and just scoop up your geographic, your delivery radius, you really are able to compete for those marginal dollars in a way that your competition can't.
Closing those sales, Wyatt, we get you the leads. The biggest heartbreak for us over here is we can't sell the shed for you. I mean, I guess we could, but now we have to get into a sales force, and we have to get into creating something to where we can aid, our leads. Do you stand behind your leads? Yes, so much so that we're thinking that maybe we need to create a sales force. So it's like we're over here going, gosh, if we're getting in this deep, how deep do you get? I've been pulled into more Cord. Started a podcast. I've been pulled into marketing. I've been pulled into rent-own. I've been pulled into finance. Shed Hub, right? We saw that as a natural course of action because what is it? It's a lead generation tool. Oh, it just happens to have the best SEO out of anyone in the industry. I mean, they're competing with Lowe's and Home Depot, right? Yeah. So it's like, how do you get conversion tracking set up? I mean, we need to talk about that in the next episode. We need to talk about how that, I talked to someone the other day and they were like, well, we don't want to put our stuff on there. We're helping you build it. And I'm like, bro, it's building on at 2 million impressions last month. I put a Facebook post out the other day, said, you want to understand how that works? I have 2.8 thousand impressions on Shed Geek.
Right.
It's not optimized by any means. Don't get me wrong, but at 2.8, it's 2 million, 30,000 clicks, a person every 60 seconds clicking on there looking for sheds. Your sheds are nowhere to be found. The SEO value alone at $40 a month for an entry level is beyond fair. Like, you could sell one shed, break even. You sold 2, you made money. You sold 10, and that's just the subscription model and the way it works and things like that. I understand.
It's a monster lurking right under the surface. And Dylan and the web design team, the conversion, what we would think of as like marketing setup team, which is the one who do these custom conversions and on big inventory websites like that, there's a lot of custom coding in the background. So this is a continuing project. Yeah. Obviously, we all know this, but for our listeners,
getting text messages right now about progress, and I'm literally getting WhatsApp updates as we sit here.
This thing is a monster. I mean, it's like those movies where you're going down the Amazon River and everything is just so serene and there's a 100-foot boa just like a man-eating crocodile right underneath the surface. These is so poised to be like a absolute lead gen.
Yeah.
Just again, right? I mean, we're just talking about grabbing from here and grabbing from there and making sure you've got SEO.
Are you ready to elevate your shed business to new heights? Your pathway to success just got a whole lot smoother with ShedSuite's innovative marketing platform. At ShedSuite, we like to think we understand the shed industry at least a little bit. And over the last 7 years, we've been building awesome software for shed businesses. We focus first on building easy-to-use software to help you create and track orders, like the point of sale and after the sale order fulfillment. And now we're excited to announce our full-feature CRM, all things pre-sale, like prospecting and follow-up, all to empower your shed company to market better and sell more efficiently. Our platform empowers you with a marketing toolkit designed to amplify your online presence, engage your audience, and drive sales like never before. Enjoy the ease of conversion tracking, email marketing, centralized lead communication, and so much more. Oh, and guess what? It even comes with an iPhone and an Android app. With ShedSuite's marketing platform, crafting and deploying effective marketing campaigns is a breeze. The advanced reporting functionality allows your team to analyze real-time conversion data so you can make informed decisions and watch your business flourish. There's no better time than now to join the community of shed business owners who are scaling up with ShedSuite. It's time to turn your marketing efforts into real trackable results. Visit shedsuite.com/marketing to get pricing, explore the features, and book a demo. ShedSuite is committed to building top quality software to empower your shed business to thrive.
But I think, we had touched a little bit on the sale itself, which, like you said, we can't. We don't do that yet at this point, right? Like, we're not literally offering that. I think we offer a ton of resources where people can go and we can recommend.
Yeah.
We really like these guys. They do a great job of training. But there's at some level, just like there is a certain sparseness of craftsmanship or quality of carpenters, right? At some point, the talent pool of like salespeople, just in general, whittles down too. So, but one thing that we can help with, and this is something that really and truly is underutilized. But once you have that customer, and the shed has been delivered, maybe it's on RTO, and you want to continue. I mean, you need to have a good relationship with that customer, right? Or you just want the review. Or I saw on Shed Sales Professionals what was it, $200 for a referral. You posted something on there that somebody that had done a service for you was then saying that I suppose you get like a referral fee or something like that. Anyway, but my point is, whatever that idea turns into, we call them post-sale success automated workflows. I mean, we have way, it's naming conventions. My goodness. I mean, we're like way too, naming conventions around here get a little long, and then we wind up with acronyms for things, but maybe that's something that Wyatt can touch on, because that's something that Wyatt and I are always so ready. When a customer asks, we're like, yes, now you're thinking in the right direction, right? Let's take a sale and turn this into a person who goes and evangelizes how good your sheds, your service, your finance options, right? Like, go ahead, Shane.
The conversation just comes into the CRM at some point, Wyatt. The thing is, we try to lead by peeling the onion from the goal in 3 years backwards. So we start peeling off layers. So like, is a CRM what you need initially? No, we can lead you into that. But like, we would be remiss, Cord, to set you up for failure to not tell you about the CRM when we start running leads for you, build a really good website, get some some ad content out there. And then all of a sudden you get all these leads and you go, because we've had this experience. We have had this. I'm sure confidence doesn't sound very humble right now, so please forgive me. But we've had people like say, "You got to turn our leads off. Like you're getting us too many leads. You got to turn them off. We can't keep up with them." And it's like, well, that's because you need a. Sorry, Dylan was distracted me, and I can't help but laugh because I can't be serious in a serious situation. I got to turn them off. I don't have a way to keep up with this. Well, if you had a CRM, you would. Well, what good's a CRM going to do? What's going to organize it? Well, I don't have time to do that. Cool. Let's do some automations. That way you don't have to worry about that. Well, what's the automation look like? Well, I don't want to sound like some robot. Okay, cool. It doesn't have to sound like a robot. Let's make it sound like you. Well,
And
how can you do that?
It is so far from it. Like it is continuing to get better and better and better.
When they say, how do you do that? That's when I always feel like for whatever practical sales purposes here, please forgive me for this, but the fish took the worm. Okay? Like, if I were being a traditional sales guy that said, I just sold you, it's whenever you ask, well, how does it do that? Cool. Now we can get somewhere, because now we're talking about the process of how to make it happen, as opposed to your doubt that it can. I've got to overcome the doubt first, and then we can talk about the actual process. So what does the process look like? Oh, I got 500 leads come in this month based off my ad budget, and I don't want to do a CRM yet, but how can you show me that it can help me, Wyatt?
And maybe even start at that, like whatever we want to call it, base model 2,500 dually. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's not 500 to that's all I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's 150, right? Maybe it is manageable, but what is the piece of equipment, right? What is that asset that you need to just do basic work? And I think Wyatt's really good at thinking through these cases.
Yeah, and I think the CRM itself is kind of an onion. Like there are, across all of our clients that have a CRM account that we've built out, as I said earlier, no two CRMs look the same. And depending on where you are at in your business is going to depend on what type of CRM setup you need. So some people simply need a place to view all of the leads. We have some clients who have zero automation set up. They have a sales team that is able to manage all the leads in a quick and efficient manner. Nothing is getting dropped through the cracks, and their pipeline at times is more organized and well kept up than the ones who have automations, because they knew exactly what they needed, and that's what we created for them. Whereas with other situations, you have companies,
more common situations.
Yes,
most people are not running like a well-oiled machine like that.
Correct. And part of that is, as time has went on, even accounts that we have onboarded and they've been a client for, say 6 months now, their CRM today looks completely different than it did when it was set up 6 months ago. Our CRM that we just turned on and got set up for ourselves and spent all this time building out will look completely different in 6 more months, because those needs change. And that, just to go back to what I was saying about it is a clean slate, that's the beauty of it, because you're able to grow into that, you're able to change it and adapt it to what it is that you need at that time. For some customers, their initial lead capture follow-up process is solid. And I have learned so many things from clients, just them sharing with me what they do. So for those clients, they need the post-sale automations, right? They need the small, and back to terrible naming conventions, don't really have great ones for this yet, but basically I always describe them as functionality workflows. They need stuff to help them with tasks. They need that when this happens, this automatically takes place over here. And just those steps alone is going to be what helps them grow in their business, because this sector over here of initial lead follow-up is already running well. So it's very, very interesting just to see the difference of needs in businesses, and at the same time, while they're all different, on a much more focused in level, they're all kind of the same. I was on the phone with a client yesterday, and I had brought up to him just we were talking about his dashboard and the KPIs. And he's like, right. Oh, well, I've never really thought about KPIs for my business. It's like, interesting. We're actually thinking about KPIs for our business, right? And of course, those KPIs are going to look different. But at the end of the day, we both have that need of establishing what those KPIs are to focus on.
Yeah.
So it's, again, they're all different, but at the same time, there's the,
this is why it's
similarities that are shared.
consultative.
Yeah.
This is what I think people don't maybe understand is
We've learned from you, Shannon.
Yeah. And where did I learn? I learned from like just literally the Zig Ziglar, right? Like help others get what they want so you can get what you want. So be servant minded first.
Yeah.
Right? Be servant minded first. Like how do I help you? We know that when we produce help, it produces money. Money's what it takes for us to be in business, live, support our family, all those good things. But let's try not to lead with, let's get this account. Oh, no.
Sam, what's going on? Are you okay?
Yes, I'm fine, Lisa. I was just trying to get a screwdriver and all this other stuff fell down. I'm ready to go buy a shed so we can have some space in this garage again.
I agree. I keep looking at the shed Mr. Jenkins bought. Let's ask him where I got his.
Howdy, neighbor. We're wondering, how do you like your shed?
I love it. It's exactly what I needed, and I couldn't have asked for better service.
And where did you get it?
I can't remember, but let me check. Something this nice will probably have the builder's name on it somewhere. No, I'm sorry. I can't find a name anywhere.
Well, we finally got a shed.
Yes, I just hope we're happy. The thing is a lot more shoddy than I expected, and I'm sure I told them I wanted a window, but they didn't have it in the paperwork, so I couldn't argue. Boy, is this a lousy shed. We haven't even had it 2 years, have we?
Barely. It was just a bad deal all the way around. Mr. Jenkins told me the other day that he likes his shed so much he wants to get a second one, but he still can't remember where he got it.
Your product is your best advertising. At Identigrow, we provide nameplates that ensure your quality products are never forgotten. Identify your products, grow your business. For more information, visit identigrow.com.
Right.
Let's try to lead with like, where do we help?
Yeah.
And we have not only where do we help, but like what makes us unique specifically in marketing. Have we had some communication woes? Have we failed to answer an email or a phone call? Guys,
Totally.
We're not perfect.
Totally, yeah.
Careful you don't hold us to the standard that you expect your customers to hold you to.
Right.
That's what I would say to a couple of clients.
Yeah.
Like, careful that you don't hold us to the standard that you wouldn't want to be held to by your own. But it's consultative. We didn't create a consultation company. We became consultants by the very nature of having to educate to sell.
And
we can't just come out and just sell.
And similarly to our willingness to give you the base model, you know what I mean? Give you that model that does the job, but is more budget friendly, or however we want to talk or think about this. In that same way, right? Like, we're more than willing to look. If you're a company that has not thought about the KPIs that, not just that you are thinking about, I think a lot of guys have a number in their mind of what they are thinking about, right? But if you haven't thought through what does the guy who is on that production line in that production bay, what do they think, right? What do they think the most important thing to track during their day is, right? I mean, these are just very subtle psychological things, right? I mean, and sometimes you're tracking things that are fun to track because they lead to success, right? If you just count how many times the phone rings at the receptionist desk, that tells you something about how well your radio ads are working or whatever, right? It's not a direct correlation, but it has this broader effect, but my point is like we are willing to have that first conversation and think through how big is your operation? How many people are tracking things for themselves while you are then tracking the broader, like we're willing to have that first conversation, and then we're willing to be, 10 steps down the road where we're evaluating dealer locations, right? Where we're saying, hey, this is what our marketing research says about the areas that are 75 to 150 miles away from your manufacturing plant, right? We're willing to do that as well and get deep and say, well, what kind of person do you want, right? Have you thought about doing personality evaluations, right? What is your process like when you evaluate these dealers? Again, the professionalization, and me and you talk about this all the time, but the professionalization of this industry where all of those evaluative, strategic, some of the best run companies that I see right now are Anabaptist led with EOS processes in place. I mean, my goodness, you talk about cooking with gas. You know what I mean? Like you
fully dialed in.
You give some people that just have the joy of work, the joy of building, the joy of giving your best effort in everything, and then you give them a framework that says, man, here's how you be the best entrepreneur you possibly can be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. I wrote down race to the bottom, and we'll just sell you something. And the reason I wrote that down in the conversation that you guys were having is we're almost equivalent to the conversation that you have out there on Facebook right now that I see on Shed Sales Professionals. Do you list your price in the shed? Do you list your price on the website? I don't want to get into too big a theory here, but I understand the people who say, no, we don't list our price. I mean, because like if you ask us about we're a line item company. Yep. If you've ever seen our quotes, we explain to you everything that we're doing. Like you have all of it in front of you. And if you call us up and say, how much for a website? That is just the hard question to answer.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be mysterious.
No.
I'm not trying to not give you a price.
This isn't
I've got
fugazi.
some questions when you say what
we
is
need
the
15
cost.
minutes.
And it's 10 factors that take 20 to 30 minutes if we're doing a good job of just getting that. And, we're not even talking about content and should we have a graphic or an animation. We're just talking about how do you approach this? Shed styles and the level of graphic design. And like we have to go through 20 minutes of just sort of walking through it just to give you
a price. It's not that we're trying to keep a price from you. It's if we want to get into a race to the bottom and say, guys, let's just run out there and put 3-page websites out there at this price and like try to, just get up all the business that you can possibly get. That's the same as like, let's just get this shed down to bare bones. Right. Let's throw the cheapest price out and let's win because let's pound it in the ground and let's race to the bottom. And whenever our sheds get down to 4,500 and their sheds get down to 43, let's get ours down to 41. Yep. That's not what we're doing. So I'm not trying to get into a philosophy of pricing and non-pricing, but I have questions. How much business do you do? Because I need to understand how big of a project is this going to be? How many shed styles do you have? Like I don't care really about how much net you do. I need to know, do you have 300 dealers, 20 dealers, no dealers?
What's the strategy?
If I just give you a price,
yeah,
man, I'm doing me and you a really bad disservice right now to just be like, oh, well, who's the other guy? What's his price? We'll beat it.
No, like what's the strategy, right? Because if you're talking about strategic implementation, there's a case that can be made for siloing, right? Siloing ultra price sensitive customers, and again, taking those leads. And like Wyatt, right, would be an expert in this, right? How do we target, first of all, right? How do we get down to that granular targeting, and how do we start to demarc in your market where effectively the income level, it's not just income, some of it is discretionary, and it turns into a little bit of a moving target. But where is the line where we need to try and silo off a certain type of customer, right? And if the strategy says, look, if you're to the point, right? If you're to the point where you have the 2,500, maybe you splurged, right? Maybe you have a 3,500 or 4,500, 6,500, right? Like you've got everything, and you got the King Ranch seats, baby, looking good. You know what I mean? Like if you have all this stuff and you say, you know what, I want to make sure that I'm winning on those marginal leads that are coming in for ultra price sensitive customers that probably wind up being RTO customers, right? Like there is certainly a strategy that says, how can you do that, right? But if it's not consultative, if you're not thinking like we think, if you're not saying, how can I silo that customer and put them into a workflow and even a funnel flow, right? That keeps them in that messaging and then works them all the way through, and then tells your salespeople when it lands in front of them, hey, here's a little tag, right? Or here's a little demarcation that says, this is a customer that is very price sensitive. They came through one of our flows that is made to silo off ultra price sensitive customers. Now that's a strategy implementation, right? But just seeing it and then saying, my goodness, somebody is selling a shed for $100 cheaper than me and moving your price down 101 or whatever. That's not strategy.
If you call and say, I need a website, heard you guys do websites, how much a website cost? Like you're going to be met with a barrage of questions. We're going to be consultative because it's better for you and us to ask questions. Could you imagine we say, $2,000, I'll give you a website. And then they're like, cool, we need 30 pages. We need this, that, and that. And then you say, well, that's not going to work. Then all of a sudden they're like, well, you said. And you're like, well, that's why I'm going to give you I need to know more information. I've got to ask more questions, what do you want to do? You got a 3D configurator? No, I don't. You know what I mean? Like, why don't you? What about some call to actions? What about this? What about that? How many shed styles? Do you have a lead form for each one? Thank you for listening to part 2 of a 3-part series involving the folks over at Shed Geek Marketing. Certainly appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to this whole mini series, and I hope you're getting a lot of valuable content out of it. Be sure to tune in next week for part 3. Thanks again, Shed Pro, for being the Shed Geeks studio sponsor for 2025. If you need any more information about Shed Pro or about Shed Geek, just reach out. You can reach us by email at info@shedgeek.com. Or just go to our website, www.shedgeek.com, and submit a form with your information, and we'll be in contact right away. Thank you again for listening, as always, to today's episode of the Shed Geek Podcast. Thank you, and have a blessed day.